4:45 a.m. 55, 60 degrees. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that. Unbound, the most famous gravel bike race in the world. 200 miles, 10,000 feet of climbing, 5,000 racers gathered in Emporia, Kansas for the big day. Unfortunately, I wasn't lucky enough to get my name pulled for the entry lottery. So what's a guy to do when all of his friends are going out to suffer for 12 to 18 hours? He makes his own Unbound at home, packs it with ill-advised roads in case he stops, and asks if anyone else is foolish enough to do it with him. Only one person made that mistake, Dan the man. In fact, we did the same thing last year, but heat exhaustion wiped me out and I had to pull the plug at mile 140. I learned a lot and planned for the 2025 edition of Illinois Unbound. My winter training was unfortunately hindered by back-to-back illnesses that pretty much ruined all of my motivation and had me starting from near zero in March. But I pulled myself together, made a training plan, and got to it. Mile 50. How are we feeling?
Feeling okay. Get it squared away right here.
The first 50 miles flew by. With a generous pacing plan, well thought out nutrition, gorgeous weather, and nowhere to be in a hurry, it was a perfect day. Having the tailwind for the first 100 miles felt great, but of course would come to be a problem later in the day.
Hello. I don't know if I can carry much with me, but...
Building the route was a mix of roads I knew, satellite maps, street view cameras, and community gravel maps. We were able to pack in about 90 miles of gravel, dirt, grass, field, and anything else that looked rideable, and I have a very generous definition of rideable. That's caused problems in the past, like last year when I overheated on an unmowed field road, or last weekend when Dan destroyed all of his tires on my ride. It would of course come back to haunt me later today too. But if I'm going to make a gravel route, I'm going to squeeze every last bit of unpaved road that I can find into it.
That is 100.
99.94. We had options for convenience store stops every 25-ish miles, with planned full breaks every 50. We would take advantage of the stop to stretch out, grab a bite of real food, reapply sunscreen and chamois butter. Hydration refills and a restock of our feed bags with snacks and bars and gels for the next 50 miles was the number one priority though.
Which means 1 liter water, 2 more liters of water, treating myself with a crispy chicken sandwich and a bag of chips. So Dan, we are halfway done with our miles. What do you estimate our percentage of actual effort completed is? It's not going to be fun going back.
I'm going to say 40%.
Every 50 miles meant at least 2 liters of water and 200 to 250 grams of carbs.
Say one thing about me. Usually I don't learn a lesson. I have, however, learned a lesson about that particular... road isn't the word, I promise.
There's something about riding on paved roads that's psychologically taxing on a long ride like this. You can zone out, lose focus, get bored. Even with Dan's non-stopped wild ride of stories, endless straight roads and fields take a toll. But every time we hit gravel, I'd pep right back up a little bit. And when we'd find a Casey special that really didn't qualify as a road, I'd be fully reinvigorated. Adventure is good for the soul. Detours and mistakes are the spice that makes rides memorable.
Good news. We made it to Mowequa, mile 130. No shortcuts, in fact, only long cuts and ill-advised, what would you call that road we were on, Dan?
You mean that field?
Between the unmowed grass field roads, active road construction, creeks, derelict bridges, crashed tractors, and some genuinely gnarly actual gravel, all of the soulless road stretches were forgotten, and I was in high spirits. We'd made it past where I failed last year.
So I think I found the best gravel road yet. I can ride it.
And then very quickly I went from great to poor, poor to awful, and awful to completely falling apart.
Mile 157. It's doing really good up until about
150.
Yeah, about 10 miles ago. Not doing good. 2 gas station cheeseburgers and a Red Bull later. I'm not saying I feel good, but we'll see what happens.
I don't know if I ate too much, drank too little, or just had too much sun, but my body was done. I wanted to vomit for hours, but couldn't. We limped another 15 miles in misery before I had to convince Dan to continue on alone. Someone had to finish. Dan still had gas in the tank, and I was just dead weight.
You're gonna have to listen to some of them cocaine songs.
Mile, I don't know, 160, whatever. I found this really nice grass. I tried to take a nap, but there are too many bugs, so I can't take a nap.
It was a lie, though. I knew I could limp for a long time still, but could feel that Dan had to sandbag for me. It really took a toll on me knowing I was holding him back, so I convinced him that I was going to take a nap and have my wife come pick me up. Faced with the option of shortcutting or continuing, I set off with the plan of just limping out the last 40 miles. In a Hail Mary attempt to keep my sanity in check, I phoned my best friend Margie. As an ultra-endurance athlete herself, I knew she'd know exactly how I felt and be able to commiserate. She kept me company as I trekked on. Going down the next gravel road, I got a funny look from someone at a house nearby. I asked if it was okay to ride that way, and they said, "Well, it doesn't go anywhere." And that was enough for me. After a mile and a half of a genuine Casey Special road, which ended up being a game trail, wetlands, a watering hole, and then just jungle trekking, I finally decided it was time to shortcut my way back to the car. At least I wasn't calling for a bailout, and I had Margie with me, following along on a map as I narrated, cheering me on.
Bikes are stupid and you should never ride them.
There was a time where I was outside my body, no longer a person, just a motor made of meat, turning sugar into motion. My world got really dark there for a while, and soon enough the whole world got dark. If I had another hour of sunlight or better lights or bigger batteries, I probably could have finished. But riding at night, fully exhausted, with no safety precautions, is not the way I wanted to end my day. Well, I wanted to end it riding across the finish line with my friend. And sometimes we don't get what we want no matter how hard we try. Disappointment is a part of life. But for my money, there's nothing better than inspiring others to find out what they can do. Find something they never would have tried without that little nudge.
I see one slow-moving headlight in the distance. Could it be? It's turning into the parking lot. Oh my God.